So this is a quick side-by-side comparison of the Blanquil blanket versus the Luxome. About the same price, our comparable Minky model. This is Minky Bamboo, just for example purposes. But they're both about $170 for the large size. It's actually theirs is maybe slightly more. Their cheapest is $170, whereas our most expensive is $170. So ours is probably a little more affordable, roughly the same price, but let me show you the difference in quality here. So this is the Blanquil. If you look at how it moves, it's very rigid. It's hard to move. It's hard to kind of like fold over itself. You can see how you can't really move it. It's very rigid. So it's not really the best and most fluid thing to sleep with at night. The fabric is thick, which again is going to add to the warmth, and it just doesn't feel very fluid. Whereas ours, you can see how light the fabric is. It's much more velvety. It doesn't feel very coarse like their Minky. I'm not sure what kind of Minky they're using, but it doesn't seem very high quality. This is way more velvety than what they're using. And then our blanket, you can see, moves a lot more. It flows with you. You could bend it kind of multiple times over itself. It's not rigid at all. It's a lot nicer. It'll form to your body, whereas this is really, really tough to move. Now looking at the guts of it, and this is probably one of the most important pieces. People can't see online. If you look at the guts of it, this is made using really, sorry about that, really large beads. Those are the beads inside. You can hear them crackle. They're almost the size of BBs, and they all bunch. So because this is laying down, I'm taking it from the bottom here, and it all bunches up. And those are big, huge beads, poly pellets, cheap. That's basically the cheapest you could make. They make a sound like a beanbag. You can hear it. So it's really just a bunch of little bean bags sewn in. They do use some kind of fluffy fabric. Ours isn't as fluffy as this, mainly because of warmth. So they put a lot of stuff in here, but it also adds to the warmth. So the thick fabric along with this is gonna add to the warmth, and then it's got a lot of the bunching from the beads within the pocket and huge poly pellet beads. So really, you know, the lowest quality you can get as far as the cover fabric is the cheapest quality. And then the large poly pellets are pretty much the cheapest option you could do while manufacturing these types of blankets. Whereas ours, if you look at the inside, you know, there aren't big beads at all. You pick it up, you pinch it, you can't feel the beads. They feel more like coarse sand. You can't feel any beads. They barely move inside the pocket. So if I go like this, I still feel a bunch up here. We do have some fabric in there, but not so much so it doesn't get too warm. A lot of people complain about warmth. So it's a little thinner, but it also makes it a lot easier to move, a lot more smooth, and it's really not bunchy at all. You're not gonna get the bunchiness that you're gonna get with the Blanquil blanket. And then the last thing is the weight bunching. Here, if you pick it up, it really, all the weight goes to the center. I mean, there's no blanket anywhere to be seen in here. You have to go all the way to the center, and then right there in the middle you see the blanket. Whereas ours, you pick it up just from the fabric. You got the blanket right here. I'm feeling the seam of the blanket. So the blanket stays much closer to the edge, much more uniform, easier to move, much higher quality fabric on the top, much higher quality 233 thread count cotton here. It feels way more durable than theirs. Theirs feels very thin. No big pellets, doesn't move. This is big, rigid, bulky to sleep with. You feel the beads, you hear the beads, and you could just feel this fabric does not seem very high quality over many washes to be able to hold those beads in. And the beads are very evident in the pockets. You can see here, just as I push up, all those beads. You feel those, and you hear them when you sleep. So, huge difference in quality. This is really the cheapest fabric on the outer to produce. It's the cheapest option, these huge poly pellet beads on the inner. Very rigid, not a great experience. This, way more fluid, higher, much more velvety fabric. No weight bunching when you pick it up. It doesn't all move to the center. So overall, a lot more time and thought went into designing this Luxome blanket than this Blanquil. It's a much better experience to sleep with than the Blanquil, and it's about the same price, actually probably a little bit cheaper depending on which model you choose. It's comparable to our Minky model. This is the Minky Bamboo, but you can see how two blankets, same price. This is made much cheaper than how ours is made. So that is the comparison between the Blanquil and the Luxome weighted blankets.